And this is the Sports Den, and boy, do we have a myriad of things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about bracketology, making the predictions for the NCAA, what to expect with March Madness. We'll be talking a little World Baseball Classic. Congratulations to my folks over in Australia down there. You guys went 3-1. You guys are moving on for basically the first time you ever won 3 games, actually, even 2 games in a series. First time you're moving on to the next round. Kudos to you guys. If we have time, Brandon may have a word or 20 to say about the very close to pending Aaron Rodgers to the Jets deal, which half the people down below are very happy about, and half the people down below are very unhappy about. Gentlemen, before we get rolling, though, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm good to be here after missing last week. So I'm always good when I'm back on.
Nice.
It's March Madness, the most wonderful time of the year. And the time that for the second year in a row, a diva quarterback is stealing headline space. Because this is the same week Brady unretired last year.
My stomach is in knots. I'm waiting for this massive shoe to fall on my head. And that's really it. That's where my focus is. But there's tons more to talk about.
Yeah. So we'll go with due course in this case. Like I said, we're going to be talking a little NCAA in this case. Start that off, get that rolling. I'm going to let you guys open up on this because this is more your stronger suit than my own. But give me some thoughts. Right now, basically, we're still working out the brackets a little bit. There's a lot of changes that still need to be done. But way too early picks. What are you thinking, guys?
I think Houston's the best team. They're number 1 seed for a reason. I don't think they have a particularly tough road to the Final Four as well, compared to some of the other number ones, especially Purdue, which we know faces the always tough Duke. So I think Houston gets past Miami. They're going to go and take this. So I'm putting my. You'll see when we fill out our brackets, Houston will be my team to win this thing.
Great Britain is winning. Yay, Great Britain. Sorry, anyway.
It's a wide open field. I mean, there really hasn't been a clear-cut number 1 team all season because anytime a team got to number 1 in the polls, they would lose, and then another team would get it. And that cycle repeated the whole season. Houston was close to that, but they didn't even get the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, which was a bit of it, which I personally feel Kansas deserved the number 1 overall seed, but that's beside the point. I will say that this is probably the best chance that we've seen since the Florida teams of late 2000, 2006, and 2007 that has a chance to repeat. Kansas has a legitimate shot here, I think. As far as picks, I kind of prefer to go region by region. But I also think Marquette is going to make a Final Four run. With how they've dominated they won the Big East regular season, and they just dominated Xavier in the Big East championship game on Saturday, and they played well that whole tournament. They had a bit of a scare against St. John's in the quarterfinals, but once they got the rust off and a really competitive game against UConn, those are the kinds of games that either will launch a team to a Final Four run. Sometimes it burns them out, but Marquette didn't really look tired at all. Xavier, on the other hand, they did. I think they might have a quick exit. So I'll say, I've been so busy today with my 9-to-5 job. I barely even had a chance to look at the whole bracket yet. I know, ironic coming from me, the college basketball savant, but it's just been that busy. But looking at this at first, I say Marquette in Final Four, easy.
I think so, especially with what happened just over the weekend with the Big East tournament. And obviously that ties into what Kyle had to say down below. Marquette fans are fired up right now. The team's won 9 straight. So there's a lot to be jonesed about with that team.
The Big East tournament is a grind. So it does it's a very tough league. They kind of beat each other up. So
I'm just remembering Kemba Walker taking UConn through the Big East tournament when they need to win the tournament to get a bid, and then through everything. So sometimes, like we said, those tournaments are absolutely the kickoff.
Yeah, I also have Marquette going to the Final Four. I have Houston there as well. I have Alabama. Alabama is so funny to me because we look at that and we see Alabama number one in basketball. Like that's very we're not used
You
to
think
that.
football with Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of tournament experience, they have probably the least out of almost all of the teams in the field when you really think about it. But they are a great team regardless of that. And I think that bracket is on the easier spectrum than the harder spectrum. I don't see too many real hitters in that region as opposed to the other ones. So I have Marquette, Alabama on that side, and then I have Houston and UConn on the other side with UConn beating Marquette in the championship. I like the way those teams are set up. I think Marquette looking because I was just doing my bracket as we were kind of waiting for the show and I started earlier today. Looking at it just into in an Elite Eight position, Marquette might have the easiest path.
Yes.
So
I really feel confident with them. And then getting into that Final Four game against Alabama, I think that'll be a dogfight, low scoring game, very physical. But it could be an experience thing versus a non-experience thing, or just whether it be on the court and actual play. But I do think Marquette beats Alabama. But I don't know. I like UConn this season. There's the whole thing where it's like, what's the metric where it's like these 6 or 7 teams have won, or if they fall into a certain criteria of stats, they are like the most probable to win the championship. And it's always like 6 or 7 teams every season. And UConn falls into that, and you could take that for what it is. I mean, some people care about that, some people don't.
You're talking about the net
I do
ranking?
think it's somewhat. Yes, yeah. I think that's somewhat interesting. So I like UConn to go all the way. But like you said, with Kansas in that bracket as well, they'd have to advance and beat Kansas personally to advance even to that point. And that'll be tough. But I think they'll be able to do it. But that's, like you said, Kansas, I think they do have. I mean, I don't have them in the Final Four, but like I do agree with going back-to-back champs since those Florida teams. I think they do have a good chance. But like I said, it's very, like you said, also very wide open. I think we're going to be in for a very entertaining tournament, like we usually are, with a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of, but some unusual upsets that we don't maybe as upset that we kind of maybe a lot of people predicted. But I just think it's going to be a great tournament. And like I said, I got UConn over Marquette.
I think that Marquette is. Yeah, I think Marquette, Purdue, Duke. I mean, I think that East is the most likely to bust your bracket right now. I think that in a season of parity, the East is the most parity-driven region there is. I mean, look, a lot of times when I'm doing this, I get to 2 teams I don't know. My go-to used to be take the best coach, right? But Coach K ain't there anymore, so I don't know what's going on. And this is when Shaka Smart is gonna. He didn't do what we expected him to do at Texas, but he's doing it at Marquette. So Shaka Smart is going to be that next great coach. He's a guy who knows how to coach full.
He's been in the Final Four before.
In the Final Four and knows how to coach 3 and 4 year students. So that's what more of this coaching is like now. My question about Alabama is simply this. Maybe they get out of the first round, but in the second round, when you start talking about storylines, the Miller storyline is going to be absolutely enormous. Right now, you still have who they've been playing, and then they get 1 day to sleep on that, and then the winner of Maryland, Virginia. But if you're talking are they playing Virginia? When you get to that Sweet 16 and Elite Eight, that media attention on the Miller story is going to be enormous. I think it's going to be bigger than any other story other than whoever the lowest seed coming out is. It's going to be that story. The Cinderella and Miller is where the national media is going to be focused. And how is Alabama going to handle that is going to be.
They've handled it very poorly so far.
They've handled it very poorly so far, and that's with it being primarily Alabama friendly coverage, SEC friendly coverage. When you have guys from the ACC or the Big 12, somebody from Baylor who covers Baylor, usually trying to ramp up the heat on purpose because that's their home team that they're trying to cover a little bit and give some Pac-12 coverage instead. It's going to be a lot of Miller. And this is a guy who's supposed to go number 2 in the draft, so there's a lot of
as a freshman.
Yeah, he has a
true freshman.
A lot of he'll be in the crucible. That's the word I'm looking for sure. As will the whole team, which does not have this kind of experience. Don't be surprised if you see Nick Saban floating about the basketball program to help.
One interesting thing about Marquette is I wrote an article on the Big East Final, and I had the press conference transcripts, and Shaka Smart had a great quote about his defense. If you'll recall from the VCU team that made the Final Four in 2011, the first four to Final Four team that Shaka Smart coached, they called it havoc. The new word for this, violence. Mm-hmm. The reporter asked about the team's defensive philosophy. How would you articulate your defense? Violent. We try to play with great violence, energy. We don't have the biggest, strongest guys. Depending on the team we're playing, sometimes we're overmatched in terms of size in almost every position. But our guys have heart, and they have incredible fights in them. And we really played, for the most part, very, very sticky, tough defense. We're going to need it if we want to advance in the NCAA tournament. So havoc is now violence, and I'm here for it.
I want to go to the Brandon Miller point with Alabama. I wanted to just see with what you wanted to think on the media thing. So they play in that first round of 64, round of 32. Being that we are still relatively close to the incident and the aftermath of that, I think it's obviously there's going to be dips and falls in how scrutinized he is and how heavy the pressure is on it. Because during it and when it happened, obviously, and Alabama was killed for it and deservingly so. I think these first 2 rounds, should they continue to advance, I don't think will be an issue. I think it's going to be those days leading up to the Sweet 16. Mm-hmm. Where he's going to be sitting there for 2, 3, even 4 days, depending on how it schedules. That's when the media is going to have the time to really sit in there and to really kind of nitpick and really break it down. And then that next game would be whatever the Sweet 16 game. If they can get past that game without having any of these distractions really hit them, I think they would be, just from the media standpoint, I think they'd be fine from there on out. Because they're not going to keep beating the dead horse the whole tournament. There's no reason to.
Well, I think initially I agree with you. Without knowing what the Final Fours are going to be, that the media heading to that weekend and through that weekend, I think will be the most intense. I don't know how much it's going to come down if they get out and go to the Final Four, and what those storylines are going to be. So there will be. That's really going to, if you get if you have like a low seeded team in there, like anything under 6, I think that helps Alabama because the positive news of the Cinderella will outweigh the Alabama. If you got 3 number 1s and Marquette, then you're talking soft. I think it really becomes, well, okay, they are a good team. Every team's a good team. What's going on with Brandon Miller? I think Brandon Miller is rooting for somebody to surprise and get through. I think Brandon Miller more than anybody else is hoping for that upset.
I'm glad you say that because I'm gonna ask you guys a question. In that Sweet 16 game, I have Alabama against the 12th seed Charleston. So that's your perfect setup for a Cinderella. Which storyline takes weight?
Charleston would in that case, then the 12. Anytime a double digit like a 12 seed from somebody outside of the Power Six conferences makes it, as we saw with St. Peter's last year, they're this year's darling.
Right.
Another thing I want to point out that kind of relates to this is that I admit I'm kind of amused by the fact that Kevin Willard left Seton Hall for Maryland and had the exact same season at Maryland this year that he's had at Seton Hall for most of the past few years. 21 wins, 8th seed in the tournament.
Well, at least you know what you're going to get out of the guy then. But
yeah. That was the one knock on him while he was at Seton Hall, was the fact that they never advanced. Only once. They won one game in the tournament throughout his whole tenure.
Well, I don't even have that. I have them losing to West Virginia.
It could go either way. That's usually how it could. 8-9 games of coin flips.
In Brandon's scenario with Charleston, in this case, if they are able to beat Alabama in a situation like that, it's, I think, in some ways a double media darling because of obviously the bad PR that Alabama's been taking.
Good over evil.
It's just exactly. It's not just the Cinderella feel of the underdog beating the higher seed team. It's also everything that the bad PR and the possible bad blood that may exist and the hostility towards Alabama as a whole right now.
And also, it's been compounded.
They're not the most beloved university, regardless.
It's also been compounded by how bad they've handled the media attention since then.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Nate Oates opens his mouth, he says something about it. He sounds even worse. The chancellor, the president of the University of Alabama, has pretty much been hiding under his desk ever since this incident happened, and they, for something like Miller's teamates were miming giving him a pat down before during pregame warmups. One game,
making light of it.
Yeah,
they were doing that. They were doing that all along.
Yeah, I mean, accessory to murder or not, allegations.
Yeah, but that's a disciplinary. That's a disciplinary issue that clearly they are not.
Yeah. Right. No,
they're not. Right. That they don't have over there as a coaching staff.
Yeah, it's and so I mean again, and then if even if they do beat a Charleston but have all that good versus evil, then you get Scott Drew and Baylor. Let's say they come out as opposed to Arizona, and now you've just had this. I mean, look, I don't know how it's going to go. It's going to be a lot of media frenzy versus, maybe Scott Drew, who's been there, done it. 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year, and like I said, I think it's what they always say on the court. It's about your guards, but I do think a lot of it is also about your coaching. And so you got a coach like Scott Drew, who's kind of been there, done that more than some of these other coaches. In the tournament now that people are retiring and getting old and leaving. So that could be another tough. Look, I think Alabama's going to be, and look, we're talking about Alabama this much. I think everyone's going to talk about Alabama a lot. And that's the thing.
But I don't know if we would be as much if it weren't for the situation, regardless of whatever seed they are.
Exactly. And so I think that's what I mean. This situation puts an extra light on them that may affect them. I don't know. So that's just, and in the tournament with so much parity, they were not talking about the women's side. Like if this was somebody on South Carolina, I'd still be like, so let the media come. This South Carolina team looks like the old UConn teams right now. Good luck beating them. But we're talking about a team that, like we said, how many teams were number one this year? We had the number one team lose to a team that didn't make it into the tournament. Purdue is the number one seed. They lost to Rutgers. We all thought Rutgers was in the moment that happened, and then Purdue kind of couldn't figure out how to win for a while. So there's a lot of ifs and ands and buts here on who is and who isn't good. So what is going to tip the scale? And when you're picking your brackets with Alabama is definitely a real question. So, I mean, I feel like, again, the East is the most up for grabs. I think the South next, I'm very confident in Houston. And then the West, Kansas, maybe UConn it feels a little more.
UCLA is still tough.
Yeah.
UCLA is going to be a factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these schools are good. It just feels like there's more in the East and the South. I just don't know what to make of Alabama when the pressure really turns on.
There's also Virginia in that bracket as well. So you have both Virginia and Baylor in that same region. While they've both won championships in the past 5 years. It's easy to overlook them since I've kind of been up and down this year. But while we may not have the classic names, there's no Coach K, Jay Wright, Boeheim, Roy Williams. Those guys are all gone. But you do still have Scott Drew and Tony Bennett.
Yeah,
who are kind of like the next generation, if you will. They've already won championships, so don't count. So if they do get past Charleston in the second round, as Brandon said, a Virginia Alabama Sweet 16 matchup, I would not count out Virginia there, especially with how they play. But they could just as easily lose in the first round, as they've also done in recent years.
As a 1 seed.
As a 1 seed. And you mentioned UConn. I don't think UConn's even made it out of the first round the past 2 years. But they have the talent to make a Final Four. Or they could lose in the first round. Who knows? That's how wide open this tournament is.
By the way, real quick, we'll come back to this topic in a minute. Congratulations to England. They won a baseball game. And Gio Urshela looks really weird in a Columbia uniform. The color doesn't match his face.
Okay.
So anyway, Kyle's very excited about the fact that Great Britain won a baseball game.
Well, it is exciting, mate. Oh wait, that's
is it the
Australia.
first one?
I believe it might be the first win of all time there. But
so did they just recruit a bunch of cricket players to play baseball? How does that even work?
I got to tell you, it is a lot different. It really is, because basically, if you hit the ball high, you're pretty much guaranteed to make an out. So it's a ground ball sport mostly.
Took them longer to win a baseball game than to colonize the world.
Sometimes it takes longer to win a baseball game than a cricket match now.
Well, I think Great Britain had great disdain for baseball as it was America's pastime.
Yeah, it is actually called British American Baseball League, I believe it's called. That's what it is. Okay, a lot of the players from the Bahamas. Okay, cool.
Huh. Okay.
All right, because they still control half the world.
Apparently. They pretty much do, yeah. Well, Aruba is owned by the Netherlands, so.
Is the East India Company still around?
Could be, yes.
They still in business?
Lloyd's of London, by the way. Obi just left. Bye, Obi. Apparently, he doesn't like all this British talk. So
yeah, he's got some.
He's like, we're not talking basketball. Get out.
Jump the pond.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. So anyway, back.
I have returned now that we're done with the British. So. The British were coming. I left.
You're like I'm more principle. I did not discuss British baseball. So, but anyway, any final thoughts on college basketball?
I just got one. JD, make sure you send us the link so we can all get in the pool.
Yeah, I'll handle that after the show. First round, but another team to watch in the first round. I mentioned that UConn first round, they could go to the Final Four. They could lose in the first round. Iona, coached by Rick Pitino, is their first round opponent. Who
could that be his last game?
It could be his. It could be his last game. He's St. John's has fired Mike Anderson. It's rumored that Pitino to St. John's is pretty much a done deal. But he could he could also wreak some havoc on the way out. And UConn fans will get very impatient if they go out in the first round again. And Danny Hurley's seat could be on fire next year.
My last point, I'm interested to see, only because I have a personal care in this, is I want to see Duke's first tournament appearance post Coach K, see how they rebound from that, go against Oral Roberts in the first round 5-12 seed. And if they were to get past that, they'd go up against Tennessee or Louisiana in that matchup. And we'll see how they go. They're the 5 seed. They're scrappy up and down season, little issues in the ACC tournament, but we'll see how my Blue Devils do.
Your Blue Devils were 19-1 with a full roster. And I think that is very important to note. Which is why I mentioned them earlier as a problem for Purdue. I think, but we're right. This isn't Coach K's Duke that was 19-1 with a full roster, and that's what we don't know.
One more prediction: not a single Big Ten team makes it past the Sweet 16.
Ooh,
most overrated conference every year.
It usually is. It usually is. They only got one number one though, which is good. Last year I think they had 2.
16 or further. Not by design, but just by circumstance.
I'm not fully ready to agree with that, but at this moment, I also. Oh no, I do have Purdue making it to the Sweet 16, but losing there as of right now.
Yeah. I think St. Peter's ran circles around Zach Edey and last.
I know. I do have Purdue. I do have Purdue.
Yeah, I think that's a tall ask right there.
Yeah,
but it's a bold pick. It's a bold take. So
yeah,
cool.
These teams jump conferences now so easily. I don't even know anymore.
Right. Like, wait, what?
It's who is honestly, it's really the big.
Who's in the big?
It's really the Big 14 and the Big 18 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The big and the bigger. Yeah. I say every once in a while I need to remind myself that Maryland is not in the ACC anymore.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
All right, gents. So I figure basically if you want, we can swap from one basketball to another basketball. At this point, as the regular season is starting to wind down a little bit, let's see if I can fix that a little bit. Yeah, we'll do it that way. The Knicks and the Nets are doing okay. I think I was talking to Ernesto about this the other day, actually. The Nets after kind of half blowing things up. And, I will say right now, Ben Simmons has not, in fact, cost the Nets really a single game at this point. None of his on the court play.
Is he even playing?
None of his on the court play has hurt the team at all.
Is he playing?
No, he's not. That's what I'm saying. None of his on the court work has actually affected the team at all.
You're so confused. That's all. Like, no, he's not what he did.
Sorry,
didn't his coach basically say something like, "I don't even know how," along the lines of, "I don't even know how to use him or what situation to even put him in the game."
Yeah, he's the healthy scratch every single time. But
listen. I give all the kudos in the world to Ben Simmons. Obviously, he doesn't love basketball. Obviously, he was great at basketball. He used his skill and something he wasn't good at to set himself up financially for life. And now he's figuring out how not to do it. We all wish we could do that. Like, be really good at something, get paid a lot, and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And retire.
No, a lot of people don't like their jobs. He's just getting paid way more for it.
Right,
but
exactly.
But he's getting paid not to do it. That's the thing.
Right.
It's kind of like basically when you were, when you had that unemployment from COVID years ago, you were paid to not do anything. But
I think that when you look at the Nets record, at 5-5 in the last 10, that record, a lot of that record is still what it was from when KD and Kyrie were playing. I don't know how far down they're going to fall. There's not a lot of season left, but they may get below that line. I definitely think the Knicks are going to get them, and I wouldn't count Brandon's Heat out yet.
I was just going to say, 6.
Yeah. There's still a few games for the Nets to fall. It's amazing to me that after the Knicks had that big hot streak, they still haven't been able to pass the Nets yet.
Yeah,
and that's because the Celtics losing streak, bad luck, rubbed off on them after they beat them.
Yeah, and I don't even understand how, Cleveland hasn't really impressed at all. I don't really understand how they've been as good as they have, and still in the 4 slot.
It's just Donovan Mitchell. Isn't this what Donovan Mitchell was like out west? You're just like, what's going on? This team, but this is Donovan Mitchell, and all kudos to him. He's a 45 to 50 win player. That's what he is.
But he just this Cavs team though, they pretty much do the exact same thing. You have your Donovan Mitchell, and then you have your Rudy Gobert or your big fella, and that's it. And you got your Jarrett Allen and your Evan Mobley. Now, obviously, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley are way better than Rudy Gobert. I don't care about blocks, nothing. Rudy Gobert is not great. But this is literally his Utah Jazz, but in this year's East. They are this. It's the same exact blueprint. It's the same kind of layout of a team. They play the exact same way. A similar record, similar seeds. I mean, Utah was always in that 4, 5, 6 seed. It maybe get out of the first round. This year, though, I think whether it be the Nets or the Knicks, or if my Heat can maybe sneak up to the 5, I think kind of. I don't want to say they can be had, but
they can be.
Yeah.
You expect a good 4-5 series this year, and you feel like there's a gap between. It feels to me like 1 and 2 or 1 and 2. The Sixers are solidly 3, and then everybody else is everybody else. That's how it feels to me. So the Sixers, can they get lucky? I doubt it, especially with Boston. Boston's just a thorn in Philadelphia's side in basketball, has been since before any of us were born.
Yep.
And it is what it is, but in that way. But I'd love to see the Knicks get up to 5, and really the kind of excitement that could bring to New York City, and in some ways to the NBA, to have the Knicks win the playoff series would be quite exciting.
Yeah. We saw a little preview of that with the Knicks-Hawks series, where Trae Young for 2 weeks became public enemy number 1 at the Garden.
Yeah.
So
we did.
If the Knicks actually get it together and can make a playoff run, they will. When the Knicks are a solid playoff team and are making a run in the playoffs, which they haven't much for the past 20 years, that place is jumping. We saw it a little bit with the Trae Young stuff, but
Vinsanity.
What's that?
Yeah,
Vinsanity.
Yeah,
Vinsanity. If the Knicks have any spark, the national media wants to root for the Knicks, right? In basketball, it's really important that the Celtics are good and the Lakers are good, but the national media loves to be able to also talk about the Knicks when they can. I mean, it's New York. You want to talk about them when you can, which kind of, I'm going to steal some of Scott's thunder, brings us to another New York team.
Yeah.
What team is that? By the way, I think New York has plenty of teams. Actually, I don't really know which way you're going with this.
Oh, I was gonna jump to.
By the way, we can't actually see you.
The Yurt.
I should have pointed out we can't actually see you down there.
Oh, well, that helps. That's to everybody's benefit.
Kyle's Villanova connection blocked Obi's face for a minute.
Yeah, I was going to jump to the New York Yurts.
Oh yes. So you want to talk about that?
I know we have two conflicting opinions from two passionate fans.
one of which may or may not be sticking around. All right.
All right.
About the Aaron Rodgers signing, and I'd like to hear both their opinions.
By the way,
I think I could be a voice of reason.
I can be a voice of reason here too. Okay, let me say this right up front. JD, if you do not want to go into this because basically rage, for lack of a better description, I'm giving you the out.
I admit I've calmed down a bit. I mean, I've made it pretty clear my dislike for Aaron Rodgers, which continues, but beyond that, there's a multitude of reasons why I think this is a terrible idea. Mm-hmm. The biggest one being that I have yet to hear anybody actually confirm that Aaron Rodgers actually wants to play for the Jets. Mm-hmm. I still wouldn't be surprised. The only thing that makes me think that he won't just up and retire if they trade for him is because he doesn't want to go in the Hall of Fame the same year as Brady. Mm. He wants to play one more year for the money and to have the stage to himself. That stage in Canton can't fit two narcissists at the same time. So Brady and Rodgers have to go in separately. But I just don't. It's to give up the future for a quarterback as flaky as Rodgers is. coming off of the worst season of his career statistically on the field, I think is peak Jets, asking for problems. And he's either going to get injured or just say, yeah, I'm done, and leave. And then they're stuck with Zach Wilson again.
But not Mike White.
Yes, and because they have been put all of their eggs in this basket, all of their other options are now off the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could have signed Garoppolo and Mike White for less than what they're going to have to pay for Rodgers.
Yeah.
The easy move was to sign Derek Carr when they could. Nope, they let him go. Everything, and now even Sam Darnold is now with the Niners. I wanted to bring back my boy Sam and give him a chance with some real coaching.
Jimmy G went to Oakland. I'm sorry. Sorry, still calling him.
Jimmy G went to the Raiders. Darnold went to Sam.
Baker's going down south.
My son.
Mm-hmm. Darnold went to the 49ers as a bridge until Purdy comes back from his surgery, which he just had surgery last week. Mm-hmm. So he's probably going to miss half the season, probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with the way that he goes through quarterbacks out in San Francisco that Darnold has a nice 4 or 5 game run, if not longer. Like, they go through quarterbacks out there. That offense is designed not to protect quarterbacks.
They still have Trey Lance there, too.
Lance is going to be the starter. Donald's going to back him up. Lance is going to get hurt. Donald's going to go in. Purdy's going to come in, replace Donald. Purdy's going to get hurt. And Donald's going to – and one of those guys on half a leg is going to get him into the playoffs, and they'll lose in the NFC Championship game. I mean, that's what it feels like to me.
That's what San Francisco's system is usually, yeah. But
and they got more defense today. So, you can't double team all 4 of their awesome defensive. It just doesn't work that way. So, that's their game plan.
Here's what I want to do. Because I'm thinking,
JD's much calmer than I was hoping. Much more.
Here's what I'm going to do. Okay.
I was going to offer JD, a Jalen Hurts size olive branch and say, you live down here, it's time to come on over. It works for me. You should try it.
Oh, believe me, I'm strongly considering it. Because for mental health reasons, if nothing else, because being a Jets fan just provides nothing but pain, especially when you see the stupidity coming from a mile away, and they still do it. And how this is now the 3rd time that Woody Johnson, one of the dumbest owners in professional sports, has gone rogue because the Giants did well. After the first Giants Super Bowl, they got Brett Favre, which was it worked out fine for about 11 games, and then he busted his shoulder, but because he cared more about his stupid individual games played streak than helping the team and actually sitting out a week for the shoulder to heal, he played hurt, and that tanked the Jets' playoff chances. 4 years later, they bring in Tim Tebow after the Giants win a 2nd Super Bowl. Now the Giants win their first Super Bowl, their first playoff game since Super Bowl 46 over a team that everybody knew was frauds, and that one game somehow got Daniel Jones $40 million a year, but be that as it may. So Woody's going rogue again, and they have put all of their eggs in the Rodgers basket, which is asking for problems. And successful or not, look at what happened with the Colts the past few years, having to get a new quarterback every year because it just doesn't, the veteran that they pick up doesn't work out. It's a cycle of quarterback hell that the Jets are diving into head first. They brought this on themselves because they are incapable of drafting and developing a quarterback, having Adam Gase Sam Darnold into oblivion, and Zach Wilson being even worse than any of us anticipated. I said from the moment he was drafted he would be terrible. I didn't expect him to be Jamarcus Russell bad, but right now, the Jets are setting themselves up for disaster and wasting a talented defense, and through injury, ineffectiveness, some found enlightenment in a yurt in the middle of training camp, and Aaron Rodgers is just going to bail or get hurt, and then they're stuck with Wilson again. And they just let their backup walk down to Miami, and he will be a starter at some point this year because Tua is going to get hurt again, and then he'll drop 3 touchdowns and 350 yards on the Jets during when they play this year. Guaranteed. That is peak Jets. This is the pain that we've signed up for. Why do we do this to ourselves? I hate that I really am considering becoming an Eagles fan. Oh, man.
Brandon, you have a retort. Brandon, make your fellow Jet fan feel good.
Okay, before you do, basically, JD did exactly what I wanted him to do because I wanted to.
I need to understand why we have to throw this diva narrative out the window simply for the fact that Zach Wilson is a diva. He was a diva, and he has been since he's gotten here. He hasn't just done a damn thing to back it up. Okay? So if we're just having the diva argument, I'm taking Rodgers 6 infinity times over Zach Wilson. Okay? So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is, he can't handle the media. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's Aaron Rodgers, and I've said this before on this show. If there is one player in the NFL that gets the LeBron level of coverage and criticism and eyes on him, it is Aaron Rodgers. So it doesn't matter. He is in Green Bay. Literally, if you throw a football out of the stadium, you're going to hit somebody's house. They are such a small market there, and he is still under one of the biggest microscopes the NFL has ever seen. So having him come to New York or any mid-level to large, it doesn't matter. He's going to be just fine. And we sit there, it would be too tough for him. Like, he will, whether it's right or wrong, he will control narratives. He will flip it. And again, right or wrong doesn't matter. But to sit here and say he'll crumble under the media because Francesa and all the Beningo and all these, these guys have something, it doesn't, no. That's not how he's going to be just fine. Okay? And then to get rid of, we want to mortgage the future. There's just some I get it, but they are just some they're not asking for 4 or 5 first rounders and 2 second rounders in these next 3-4 years. It is not going to be that much. So to sit here and say we want to save onto that just because we don't want to take this step and try and get somebody that could possibly take us over the edge in which we haven't been in over a half century, I think is idiotic for us to sit here and be like, nah, I don't want him. As if we have the right as Jet fans to sit here and pick and choose who the hell our quarterback should be. Because I would argue, forgetting the teams that like the Jaguars and the Texans that are only 20, 25 years old, I'll even throw the Ravens in there. I would argue the Jets, throughout their entire history, have had one of the worst quarterback plays consistently in their entire lifetime. And we want to sit here, we want to sit here and say, nah, I don't want him. I'd rather have him or him or him. I'm getting worked up here. My stomach's starting to really, my diaphragm here. But I just don't understand why we don't want to try and win, try and get to a place that we haven't been. I feel like we're all just so satisfied with like, no, we're not going to get him. We'll just deal with what we have and hope we can get to the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. No, that's so stupid. Like we have one of the most talented Jets rosters we've ever had. And it is not every day that you can get a quarterback of this caliber. I don't care what type of season he had last year. He lost his best receiver. He just came off 2 MVPs. And look at and it's just.
And he's 40 years old.
It doesn't matter. And I don't want to hear the Brady. Brady has nothing to do with this. It doesn't matter. I watched a quarterback last year on that field that deserved to play. And there are so many Jets fans and football fans that sit here and say that he didn't even acting like he didn't deserve to be on the field last year. He was so terrible. They weren't. Have they have 1 or 2 more games go differently? If they beat the Lions, they're in. If they're in the playoffs. My voice is cracking. I'm so emotional over this. I just think this is so idiotic for us to not want to go after something. We have such a history of trash quarterback play. And we don't get these chances to get these guys. We have to do it. And the Brady retirement thing, that's a real thing. He is not retiring. And we could say, oh, he's just playing for the money. Fine. There's so many guys that just play for money. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But to sit here and really not want to go after him because of these little diva and these 40 and no, come on. This is we have a roster that we have to try and win with now. Okay, and we get these guys. We sign them. Oh, Carr for 3 years, and that can develop. And then what if it doesn't happen in the 2 or 3 years? Then you have Carr, and then you have a whole roster that you have to pay, and then the whole thing is going to blow up. So if you have Rodgers now, you pay Rodgers now when you don't have to pay the rest of your roster. And then you go for it. Then if it doesn't work, you can cut bait with Aaron Rodgers and then still have time and the money to pay the roster while then drafting another kid or getting some guy on a veteran on a cheaper discount or something. I just think this is idiotic to not want to go for this. And I just got higher standards for my team.
Okay, so I think you're both kind of like we were hoping. You're in polar opposite positions.
Which I was looking for, gentlemen. Thank you.
Which is great because this is not that type of show. But for once, it was, and that's cool.
Loved it.
Loved it. I will say these are my thoughts here. As an impartial onlooker, to be honest, my biggest concern for the Jets with this.
You're not impartial. You're handing out olive branches.
Would you like to become you too can become a Jalen Hurts fan, but you don't live in the area. You don't know what that's a whole other.
No. I'm never jumping ship. I will head down to Davy Jones' locker, and I'll stay there as long as it takes.
My concern with Aaron Rodgers is not the diva thing, although what this concern is might fall in the diva category. When Tom Brady went there, we knew that Tom Brady was going someplace for one reason and one reason only, to win. If Tom Brady steps his old ass out of retirement, we're allowed to say that word on the show, to go to the Raiders, I guess he can't now, or the 49ers, he's going to win. Even if he went to the Jets, it's going to win. When Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl, unlike every other Super Bowl quarterback, we heard how hard they were working to get back there the next year. We didn't hear that with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers lost his best receiver, the guy he could communicate with at the line without talking. He didn't go and grab these young guys and put the work in. So that is my concern about Aaron Rodgers. Can he do what he needs to do in only one season with this talented roster? Because although I'm not concerned about his handling of the New York media for one season, I agree with that point 100%. This is the most scrutinized player in the NFL, including Tom Brady. This guy can handle NFL spotlight that he can do.
Tom Brady didn't even have a quarter of the criticism
that
Rodgers had, unless it was a situation like a Deflategate or something like that.
Right.
But that, well, we know that doesn't count, apparently.
But he could be rich enough, disheartened enough, and not having to stand on the stage with Brady that if he does have a bad year because he didn't put in the work with the receivers and everything else, that he could walk away. If he stays for 3 seasons, whether the Jets win a playoff game or not, they'll win a play. I can't believe they won't win a playoff game. Maybe even 2 in a season. It won't be. Then you have to decide, is it worth it? If he leaves after 1 season, which could happen. Go on.
Yeah. Even with Rodgers, they still may not even be the best team in their own division.
Oh,
are the Jets with Rodgers?
Oh my God!
Right, but you're going to do all this and still not be as good as Josh Allen and the Bills.
And they will do nothing and still not be as good as Josh Allen and the Bills.
Can I toss my own opinion into this ring?
Please do.
Both of you are both right, and both of you, I think, are both wrong. On this case, I think he is over the hill. I think he's doing this for himself. There's no logical reason for him to go to a team like the Jets. You know, the Jets are still in a quasi-rebuild. You know, they did win 7 games last year. They did have a better season than previous years. We'll give you that. But
they're not now. They know what this team is now.
But my point in this case here, I'm going to agree with you in a minute here. But for right now, I'm agreeing with him. This is not a team that can bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers for a single season to get him over the top. Could he get them into the playoffs? Yes. I think if he has a rebound season, I think playoffs are definitely doable. That's why they're trying to do this to get notoriety. JD, I think you're 1,000% right. This is a Woody Johnson panic move, and you listed the 3 reasons why, Super Bowl 42, 46, and then, of course, last season. However, having said that, I think in this case here, he's worth a flyer. It's not like you're mortgaging the massive amount of the future here. You're not giving up,
right.
first-round picks next year and the year after that. You're giving up picks that might be decent, but not over the top. But you're getting a guy who has the potential to get you back into the playoffs. Are the Jets playing catch up right now to the Giants? Are the Jets being that jealous little brother, to the Giants? Yes.
Their entire existence they have been.
I see. It's funny. I see shades of what. Remember the Mets in the early 2000s. Whenever the Yankees would add somebody, the Mets would be like, "Oh yeah, we got this. Oh, look at us!" Because it was all this battle for the back pages. Same kind of thing. But at the same time, if you have an Aaron Rodgers that's available, screw it, go for it. Take a flyer. If nothing else, if it fails epically, at least it's better sometimes to know that you tried than versus basically always wondering what would have happened if you did.
I will say this: it is more palatable if they do pull this trade off and manage to only give up a second round pick or something. I believe Sammy said in the group chat recently that the Favre trade, I think, was a second round pick that would have been a first if they won the Super Bowl, or was a third conditional to a 2 or a 1, depending on playoff or Super Bowl results. If they get that, then okay. The mortgaging the future part isn't so much the draft picks as it is all of the restructuring that players like Mosley and others are doing to try and alleviate cap space, because those restructured deals with deferred money, that bites the Jets in the ass in the salary cap in a few years and makes all of those pieces harder to sign. So that is so to Brandon's point. Yes, that is true. A lot of people need to get paid in a few years. So there is a short window, as it is for any team in the NFL. I just don't trust the Jets to get it right ever, because they usually don't.
I also don't see Aaron Rodgers as being the mentorship type. It's not like
he never was. And I think a lot of
that's going to hurt the future. That will hurt the future a little bit there, because he's not the type to teach an offensive line what to do. He's not the type to teach and mentor. He's too self-involved. Yeah, go.
Yeah, but that was to my point earlier. I mean, I don't know if that's diva or not diva when we say diva. That is Aaron Rodgers' absolute positive weakness. I do quarterback, and I do me at quarterback. That's what I do. I do it very well, but that's what I do. That is who you are getting to play quarterback. That's also probably why 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 win, and many disappointing losses in NFC Championship games. There's probably some tie in there for sure. So the rest of the coaching staff is going to have to coach. You're going to have to coach up your line, teach your center to make calls. And my biggest concern with him is Wilson, who we all think is going to be a phenomenal NFL receiver. Will he get to where he needs to get to as quickly as he needs to get to keep Aaron Rodgers around for a season or 2 or 3? Like, the goal, I think, is 3 years with this. You get 3 years out of this, and then whatever the mess is
they're only getting 1.
Yep,
if you only get 1, then that's where it becomes a problem. Because
I don't see him doing 2 years.
I see we get 1 year from,
and then he goes to Minnesota for 2, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's the other thing about all of this is that Aaron Rodgers has been in the shadow of Brett Favre his whole career. So why does he want to do the exact same thing?
Because Aaron Rodgers is the exact type of guy to say, "I'm going to do what you did, but actually do it." He could do. It can go. He
didn't do the retire unretire as much though. I mean, hell,
he's had the Willie you won't he stuff for the past 2 years.
This is SportsCenter did commercials on that. It's like
I had that thought earlier today, is if maybe he pulls a Michael Jordan and retires for a year, maybe possibly a year and a half. Some team has a quarterback that goes down. Oh, Aaron Rodgers or something. So that's, I don't know.
That was receiving yards, the worst QB.
Yeah. The Jets had the offensive and defensive rookies of the year this past year with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson.
So
Brandon is right. There is talent on this team.
And I don't know the exact number, but there's a stat for, I think it's either passer rating or completion or something where with quarterbacks with a minimum of 175 pass attempts over last season.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 30, I think there was 34 or 35 quarterbacks listed. The bottom 3 were all the Jets quarterbacks. It was Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson. So I want Jets fans to look at that stat. Go find it, look at it, and then tell me that Aaron Rodgers, you wouldn't take a flyer on that.
You know what? Let me add, Brandon, I would agree.
That's 175. That's a lot of pass attempts. And to have the 3 worst quarterbacks, including backups, is with that roster and to win 7 games. Come on, like what are we doing?
So here's the flip side. And so we've kind of been backing, I think, Brandon a little bit. The flip side is there were other guys available for less, for longer. Yeah. So you could have had a sturdy situation.
Now, Jimmy G, Derek Carr.
Yeah, are they as good? Heck no.
But they're longer term.
Okay, so what happens if we sign Jimmy G or Derek Carr, and then Aaron Rodgers comes out and says, "I would have played for the Jets." Let's say he retired and said, "I would have played." And we flat out
whatever he would have said.
All
right.
I mean, hell, you thought that Baker Mayfield would have been okay because you get the long-term aspect. This is exactly what. Now, in this case, let me say this: remember a couple of years ago when Washington won with like a 6-10 record in the division? I talked about the fact that how badly I wanted the Giants to win that, even if it meant, hurting us draft picks, just because you want that 1 year to feel right again. And that's where I think Brandon's feeling with this. You've had misery for so long that you just want that 1 year to feel like it matters come January, and screw the future for now. We just get that 1 year. I'm thinking maybe your rationale as well.
And the past 2 Super Bowl winners, not this year with the Chiefs, but the Rams and Tampa, they did that. The Rams traded away every first round pick for the next 5 years. It seeming like, but it worked for them.
And they're
paying for it in the future, but they got the ring. So yes, I get that.
Moves.
It's good if it works.
They made moves offensively, defensively, both through trade and free agency. We don't necessarily have to. Sure, there's no harm in improving, different positions throughout your team, but you don't have to do what the Rams did. You don't have to bring in players from 4 different teams and someone off waiver. You have the team. Get the damn quarterback.
Another issue here is that because of this, there's now 2 teams, the Packers and the Jets, that cannot make any other free agency moves until Rodgers decides what the heck he wants to do. Supposedly there's some kind of clause in his contract where if it isn't made official until this weekend, that's supposedly what the holdup might be now. That's why they're waiting a few more days for it to become official, which I believe nothing until it's actually official. But we wait a few more days. You've already seen today just the number of free agents that have signed elsewhere. So the Jets are in a holding pattern because they don't know how much cap space they have to spend on other players and other needs. They still have a garbage offensive line that any quarterback is going to be playing behind.
And Brandon, I think to your point, if the Jets had signed, say, Jimmy G or Baker or Derek Carr, or we'll call if you want by your level.
No, I was okay. I'll keep Derek Carr. Keep Derek Carr as
I want
everybody else.
If the Jets had signed Derek Carr and then Aaron Rodgers came out and said, "Oh, I would have played for you guys," I think by and large Jet Nation would be like, "Okay, but we still got Derek Carr."
Right.
I think they would have been okay with the fact that they missed out on Aaron Rodgers because you still had an upgrade over Zach Wilson. And with somebody who's had success in the past, okay, you didn't get the top prize, but you know what? You walk away with something pretty damn awesome in the same way. And I think Jets fans in general would have been okay with that. Even you would have been okay with that.
But also, that's assuming that the car is going to be as a home run, which of course is as much as a guarantee as Rodgers is. So then, it's a shot in the dark either way. I'm just going for the bigger promise, bigger risk, bigger reward. That's me.
Are you trolling here? Dwayne Brown is 38 years old, and Becton may never play again.
Have you seen pictures of Becton lately? Ooh, comeback player of the year right there. Watch.
I just see him getting hurt
He's
again in
looking
training
slim.
camp.
He's looking good.
All right, you know what? Let me ask both of you guys this question. Very simple question here. Aaron Rodgers to the Jets next season. What is their record? JD, you first.
10-7 first round playoff loss.
Okay.
So you're saying that with this exact team, Aaron Rodgers is only 3 games better than our merry-go-round insanity quarterback play last year?
Because that division, it got tougher.
A, the division is tougher. B, the rest of their schedule is tougher because they're not playing the last place schedule anymore.
What conferences are they playing?
AFC
West.
They got
AFC. That's a hard. AFC West is hard.
They got
AFC West and NFC West.
I think so.
Mm.
I'm gonna with 17.
One year the O-line couldn't even solid considering who they bring in.
I think you're looking at 6 or 7 losses.
I'm thinking they're going to go 9-8 and miss the playoffs.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
All right,
You have to beat somehow. You have to beat Buffalo once. If you can beat Buffalo, you beat Buffalo at home. You lose at, let's say you go 4-4 in the division.
They have NFC East next year.
That's
right.
4 losses. Then the top 2 teams in the NFC, they lose. That's 6. And who in the AFC?
Let's see their opponents for next year. Just pulled up the schedule list. Home, they're playing Washington, Philly, Atlanta, the Chargers, Kansas City, Houston, and the 3 division teams: Buffalo, Miami, New England.
Didn't they beat the Dolphins with
Right,
Mike
so
White last year?
that is lucky. I mean, they got the San Diego. They have San Diego, the Eagles, and Kansas City at home. That's good news. That's great.
On the road.
That actually
on the road they have Dallas, the Giants, which isn't actually a road game.
Yeah.
The Broncos, Browns, Raiders, and Buffalo, Miami, New England.
I think that home away situation really works out well because
The
if you look at
the
2 conferences they're playing, you expect the 2 best teams. They got 3 of those 4 games at home. That's huge. That gives them a little bit of a cushion. So they lose the 4 away games in conference. Let's just say it's a balanced conference. That's 4 losses. They only lose 2 of those 3 games. They win one of those home games. That's 6 losses. And then the Cowboys on the road, that's 7. I think 10-7 is a roughly pretty fair marker to make. 10 wins should be enough with the extra wild card.
Yeah.
And I think you have to.
Nate can get you in there too now.
I think you have to look for the wild card because right now you have a full Buffalo team that's played together forever with Josh Allen. But a Josh Allen injury, or something else goes wrong in Buffalo, you can take the division.
Loving the confidence.
Johnny boy. 12-5.
12-5. Woo! Nice. Digging it.
Johnny Boy's confident. I respect that. I may not agree with it, but I respect it.
Kyle's like, they haven't lost yet.
Listen, currently they have not lost a game all year. Oh my God, yes, respect to that. I would happily be wrong. If the Jets got into the playoffs and did better than 9-8, I will admit being wrong on that one, 100%.
I personally, when I'm looking at a schedule for a football team, I'm always looking for just, can I get to 10 wins? Like, are there 10?
That's the litmus of it, yeah.
That's what I look at,
Well, no, back that up. No, actually, 7 losses. Because the Giants made it in last year. In last 2 years, there's been a team that's made it in with 9-7-1. Because it was the Giants last year and the Steelers before that. So it's really 7 losses more than 10 wins.
Right. You're right. And that's how I just counted it. I think the Jets with Aaron Rodgers are a playoff team. But I'm also not saying that the Jets with the thing is, I'm not sure that they weren't a playoff team with Carr. Right. But the difference is Aaron Rodgers, when he's in the playoffs, unlike those other guys, can pick up your team and carry him for 3 or 4 games straight if he's in the mood. And if he's playing the Cowboys. Because if he's playing the Cowboys, I guarantee he wins. And that's his bread and butter move in the playoff is beating the Cowboys.
Yeah. And also Nathaniel Hackett.
This is all recorded and saved.
Oh yeah, you can Feel free to come back and yell at us if we're wrong. I also have zero faith in Nathaniel Hackett. He's had his best coaching results because of Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's just like Adam Gase, where he's only good and only has a job because of a few good years as an offensive coordinator with a future Hall of Fame quarterback, but otherwise he's a fraud. He also has nepotism going for him too.
Yeah, he also took the Jaguars and Blake Bortles led offense to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, but that's fine.
By the way, thank you, Johnny, for the sub. I appreciate that. I just got the alert. Appreciate it. You rock. Thank you. And respect your 12-5. We're going to hold you to that.
Yeah, we're keeping receipts too.
I want to fly high with Johnny Boy too and go 12-5, but I'm going to stick to 11-6.
Okay.
I'm going to stick to 11-6.
Yeah.
And where do they end up? What is the final result?
Well, 11-6 can get you second place.
No, I'm saying like playoff standing or where they lose to.
You just got to get the playoffs right now. There are so many other. We're not even at the beginning of the preseason yet. There's so many other teams.
I want my receipt printed now.
Look at the back.
Hold on. Oh, this is okay, but this is pending a guarantee. This is actually Rodgers on the Jets.
Right. Yes, we are talking Rodgers.
Okay.
So and Belichick will still beat the Jets twice.
11
so
6.
brutal.
11-6, and they lose in the Super Bowl.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
And who do they lose in the Super Bowl to?
That I don't know yet.
Okay.
That I don't know.
It's gonna be.
You know what would be really hilarious to me?
They lose to Dallas.
And to all of us.
Yeah,
is
right.
If somehow
the one thing
they lose to Jordan Love and the Packers.
No. Is if they lose to Sam Darnold and the Niners in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How ridiculous would that be?
Oh, that would be
How
so
ridiculous would that be?
That just depends upon me. Now that's truly a point of view thing, right? For the Jets fans, it's Sam Darnold, and for the Packers fans, it's Jordan Love, and for the Cowboy fans, it's like we finally beat them. It's the Cowboys, and every other fan is just like I want to win.
You guys said they lose in the playoffs to the Dolphins and Mike White, though.
I think if they get swept, they'll get swept by the Dolphins in the regular season by Mike White.
That Dolphins team truly goes where Tua goes. I mean, we saw that the connection between coach and that's a strong coach quarterback connection there. As soon as it got severed, we saw what happened to that team. Like that is really coach and quarterback on the same page. Without Tua, Mike White is he's gonna look like he did with the Jets. One great game and then he's a backup for a reason. One great game, and that game will be against the Jets. I have no doubt.
Mike White's that game will be against the Jets. Mike White is a poor man's Nick Foles. For exactly the reason that you said, Obi.
Yeah.
But that's still better than Zach Wilson.
You know what? After thinking about it, I'm gonna stick to, regardless of who's under center for San Francisco. The Jets lose to the Niners in the Super Bowl. That's my official pick.
All right.
With Rodgers.
They were the worst team in the league. They got nowhere to go but up. Chicago.
I will not believe in San Francisco until I see who's playing quarterback for them in the playoffs. Because that's what's going to matter. When we see what those other teams look like, one of those teams in the playoffs will have a good defense. Not as good as 49ers defense, but a good defense and a strong offense. And will it be a defense that we think is strong enough to stop whatever quarterback schlock is back there?
Nah, you know what? I'm done. No. Jets over the Niners. I can't. No. Jets over. That's it. That is my official receipt. Jets over Niners.
Whatever you're having.
Niners is official.
I'll have what he's having. Exactly.
Jets over Niners.
You have officially become a Cowboys fan because that is what the Cowboys fans say every single year. 17-0.
I have never once said the Jets will ever win the Super Bowl.
Like playing all Madden against like the worst team on easy mode. That's going to be the Jets this season.
No, but that's it. Jets over Niners. That's it. Official.
Illuminati.
NFL Illuminati. No, because I'm pretty sure Woody Johnson has a deal with the actual Illuminati, so that won't happen.
But I was going to say, Willie, you're being part of the contract. Is he supposed to have a meditative waterfall?
It's going to definitely be the New York Yurts every time we talk about them. Just how about them Yurts?
No, first off, if and
is
when
that Yurt rent controlled?
Sauce or Garrett or any of them are coming up to that, but Yurt and just lighting all New York up. It's going to be. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm
New York Yurts versus the Philadelphia Hurts.
Ooh.
I
like that.
No, Philadelphia. No, sorry, can't root for Philadelphia teams. Even basically my broadcasting part, associate down there is actually rooting for the Union. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I'm sorry, I couldn't root for the Union last year, even though you were covering that team.
Well, as we head to the NBA playoffs, I'm completely confident that the Sixers will be losing in the finals because that's what Philadelphia teams do right now. So
yes, let them get in on the action and let the Flyers stay in the basement.
Yeah. But the Devils, point tie with Carolina for second overall. One game behind. So anyway, we may as well wrap this up at this point. We've been on this for 70 minutes already. Damn. So well, we will come back to this one. Oh my, will we? Especially if nothing else, because I laughed so hard. I laughed harder than when I'm usually drunk. So impressive on that one. Any other final thoughts, guys?
Let's go Yurts.
So, what do you go?
Make it happen. Let's go.
By not making the play. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, the Flyers are breaking the championship loss.
Yeah. Let me get Aaron out of there. Let me get former Jeopardy host Aaron Rodgers out of there. He was terrible. He was so bad with that. Oh my God, it was so brutal. Mayim Bialik is so much better. But all right, gents, we're gonna call it here, I think. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Obi. Thank you, JD. You guys were spectacular with the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I had so much fun. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Happier note, I met Bill Raftery at the Big East Big East Award ceremony.
Wonderful.
He's just as nice a dude in person.
There we go.
That's my final thought.
Oh, all right. I was going to highlight that. your little bobblehead. So, all right. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you, JD. Thank you, Obi. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Johnny Boy.
Thank you, Johnny Boy. Yeah, sorry, a little frog in my throat there. But thank you to all you guys. I appreciate it. Next week, we will probably come back to this or probably talk World Baseball Classic or more March Madness. We'll figure it out. If you have any thoughts, let us know. We will basically cover that and work for you. Until then.